This year's transfer portal class for Indiana basketball will have much more success than last year's did for multiple reasons.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Well, we're going to talk some more football commits later as Indiana quietly creeping up the rankings for Curt Cignetti in high school recruiting. Another big 2026 commit has chosen the Hoosiers. Plus, we're going to take a look at some team portal rankings around college basketball, around the Big Ten, where Indiana stacks up in there. But I'm telling you right now, that Indiana's transfer portal class this year, which is top 10 consistently no matter where you look, I think it is too low. I think it's still being disrespected. I think it's still not being valued enough, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But no matter where you look, it's a top 10 and flirting with a top 5. And I think it will be much, much different than what we saw a year ago. Because, look, I totally understand. I've seen the complaints. I've seen the concerns. I've seen the worries from a lot of you Indiana fans. And maybe even college basketball fans who remember what happened last year. Indiana and Mike Woodson brought in the best transfer portal class in the country. It was ranked at the top because of guys like Oumar Ballo, because of Miles Rice, Cannon Carlisle, Luke Goody, those types of players who came in and were supposed to elevate Indiana. They were supposed to make the season good. They were supposed to make the team better. They were supposed to save Mike Woodson's job. Instead, they didn't pan out. They didn't work, and it didn't really help the team at all. They ended up missing the NCAA tournament, and Mike Woodson's no longer the head coach here. So there's a lot of concern, and I would say there's a lot of comparison happening between what last year was supposed to be and what this year could be. And I totally understand, right? Well, we've got a top 10 portal class, but we saw how that went a year ago. Well, we had good players last year out of the portal, but we saw what happened last year. I understand the concern. I do. I totally get where you're coming from, but I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you why it's going to be different, because I think it will be different. I truly believe that. I'm not telling you that just to tell you that. I'm not telling you that just to push back. I'm telling you this because I believe it. I think Indiana will be better this year. I think Indiana will make the NCAA tournament this year because the coach is different. It's Darian DeVries, somebody who is a proven winner everywhere he's been. Mike Woodson didn't have that. Mike Woodson didn't have the reputation of a winning resume in college basketball. Heck, he wasn't even a good winner in the NBA. He was a fired coach from the National Basketball Association, and Indiana hired him because they thought he was the saving grace, and he wasn't. And it didn't work out, and we've moved on. But you've also got a coach right now in Darian DeVries who wants to be here. He wants to win. He wants to compete, and he's going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. I believe that. He's told us that. He's proving that with his actions as well, and that's a big, big deal to me, and it should be to you as well. I trust his X's and O's more than I did Mike Woodson. I trust his coaching staff that he's put together more than I trusted Mike Woodson's, and I trust the players that he has put together more than what we had a year ago. I really thought Oumar Ballo was going to be good, that we had the narratives that he was a little bit on the slower side and could be considered lazy. I don't think that was the case at all in Indiana. I just think he got worn down. I think he played a lot of basketball and couldn't do it all on his own. I think Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle were disappointments. I think they were disappointing here with what they brought to this team and this organization. And again, I think a lot of that doesn't fall on them. I think a lot of that falls on Mike Woodson because of the coaching style and the play and the game plan. I'll put that in air quotes for those of you on audio for what this team was trying to do. But I think Indiana is different now because I trust Darian DeVries and his staff. The portal guys didn't work last year. Okay, neither did the coach, and they're all gone. All of them are gone, and this is something completely different. I trust what Lamar Wilkerson's going to do. He's a top 15 scorer in the country, folks. You can't make that up. You bring in Reed Bailey, who is an absolute stud. You bring in all sorts of guys at the guard spot and the bigs. You bring in Sam Alexis, who was a backup center at Florida. You bring in Connor Enright, who played for Darian DeVries a couple of years ago when they were at Drake together, winning 20, 30 games. This will be different because I think the players are better and the coaching is better. Now, I know there is some concern, and rightfully so, with the idea that Indiana has brought in a bunch of mid-major guys. You've got guys from Drexel and from Elon and from Sam Houston and Troy, right? Totally get it. Totally get it. But somebody like Tatum Conaway is a really good basketball player. I don't care what level it's at. I don't care if it's at Indiana. I don't care if it's at Troy. I don't care if it's at the YMCA. These guys can play. Nick Dorn, very underrated. Very underrated. A great player from Elon. And you can be worried about it, but I think we should also look at the fact that, man, mid-major basketball was pretty good this year. Mid-major basketball was better than it's ever been. The floor of college basketball has been is up higher than it's ever been. And that's a good thing. Look at the NCAA tournament. Look at college basketball as a whole, man. It was really good. Now, what we saw was, at the end of the day, the best teams are the bigger teams, right? The SEC, the Big Ten, things like that. But those mid-majors did a really good job. And so you're bringing in those players who fit the system and fit the narrative and fit the idea of what Darian DeVries and the staff want to do. That's why it's going to be better. Indiana was filling roster spots last year, and it could feel like that right now because you didn't have a single player on the roster when you showed up if you were Dark Knight DeVries, but you're bringing in guys who you think are going to fit your system and be able to execute what you want to do, whether that's offensively, defensively, in practice, off the floor, whatever the case may be, your culture, right? You're bringing them in because you feel like they're going to work. And let me just go ahead and say this. Somebody's not going to work out. Tatum Conaway may not be any good here. It may not work out. Lamar, I probably won't go as far to say Lamar Wilkerson won't work out here, but, Josiah Miles may not work out here, or Reed Bailey or Jason Drake or somebody. Somebody's probably not going to work out here. The odds are just what they are. You've brought in almost double-digit portal players. One of them won't work out, and that's okay because you've gotten so many other ones who I think are going to play really well together, and they are building a team that is stacked to win in today's college basketball era. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. How good will they be? I don't know. We have to wait and see, and I'm excited to get this team in practice and get some notes and get some eyes on it and kind of see where they are, but it's going to be different than last year. And so don't compare what happened last year with a top-ranked portal class with Mike Woodson and what was his final season to what Darian DeVries is doing in his first year with a really good transfer portal class, because I'm telling you, it will be different. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we will flip and talk about a kind of a broader scale here with portal rankings around college basketball. Been telling you that Indiana's in the top 10, but who's around them and who should we worry about? We're talking about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time. It's simple. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, music, theater, you name it, they have got it. And they're all in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay, and I can personally guarantee that that is the case. I love it. It's the reason why I go there and don't go anywhere else. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKED. ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you also just kind of putting up with us being on the road one more day, right? Audio, visuals, maybe a little bit different. So apologize about that. We're back at home starting tomorrow. So appreciate you doing that. And we're just bringing you content any way we can, even if it is from a hotel room and we got to make the neighbors a little bit upset, right? That's what we want to do and be sure that we are bringing you the most content that we possibly can. And so thank you for being here. If you're listening on audio, be sure that you are following us over there. You can subscribe if it's an option, turn on those notifications, send it to everybody you know. We want them listening to Locked On Hoosiers. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill, right? Hit the thumbs up. That tells me that you want more, tells me you like this type of content, also tells YouTube somehow, some way with the algorithm that more people can find it and be here at Locked On Hoosiers. Also, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. I want to know your favorite portal commit as of right now. Who's your favorite player that's going to be on the roster for Indiana? Let's have that down in the YouTube comments, and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Be sure you do that. We're well on our way to 6,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for doing that and supporting Locked On Hoosiers. Okay, well, we wanted to talk about, I told you that we were going to talk about the overall portal rankings right now in college basketball. And you can look at all these different sites and whatever. I'm going to use 247 Sports. It's the one I use for all my rankings. It just stays consistent. You can use literally anyone that you would like, but that's the one that I'm going to use. I find that they are the most consistent and it stays consistent for me. And so you look at portal rankings right now, and I know these are, again, kind of in loop to what we've been talking about. You take these with a grain of salt because it's based off of just what their portal, each individual player's portal ranking was, right? They get their rating and the stars and things like that. I mean, it's kind of weird that they do this now, but you have to, given the monstrosity that is the transfer portal. And I wanted to give you an update on this because there are several teams that Indiana needs to be concerned about, not in terms of be threatened or truly worried, but you need to have an idea and keep an eye on these teams, because we saw a lot of teams from 2 years ago who weren't great that were then good last year because of the transfer portal, and especially right here in the Big Ten. I told you before the season, Ohio State and Michigan were the two teams to look out for. Ohio State didn't quite pan out, but Michigan was pretty darn good, weren't they? I think they were a really, really good team. They ended up getting to the Sweet 16 before they were beat by Auburn. And so you look at what the transfer portal looks like right now in terms of the overall team rankings. On 247, again, you can look wherever you'd like. St. John's is at the top with Rick Pitino. No surprise there. No surprise with Rick Pitino. They have been out there getting anybody and everybody that they can, and big time commits as well. St. John's is going to be really, really good. And there's that Michigan team again. There are the Wolverines. There's Dusty May after signing a contract extension. Michigan is going to be legit. Now, I'm going to be throughout the summer, and as we get closer to the season, be taking a much deeper dive into what Michigan's roster is going to look like. But you get Cadeau from North Carolina. They got the Johnson kid from Illinois. I mean, they've got some serious dudes on that team, plus whatever they're able to bring back off of a really good squad. So Michigan is going to be good again. And then you've got the Bluegrass State going at it with Louisville and Kentucky. We play Kentucky, so keep that in mind. Mark Pope and the Cats, it's been confirmed they spent over $20 million on their roster this year. Wild on what they did in the transfer portal. You look at Iowa in the Big Ten. Don't know how, don't know why, but they've got 8 commits. So just based off of volume alone, they're in the top 10, and Indiana's in that category as well. But Iowa's up there as ranked 6. There's Indiana ranked at 8. I think we should be higher. We have 9 commits out of the transfer portal. 7 of them are considered, quote, 4 stars in the transfer portal, which you can, again, take that for what it is. You can take that for what you want to. That's totally up to you. But technically, 9 commits, 7 of them are 4 stars, 2 of them are unranked. I don't know if the same criteria goes into it as high school. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure they are obviously basing it off of what you did at your previous stop, but I don't know. Rankings just seem to be a little to me, but I do think that we are being undervalued. I do think that people are still overlooking what Indiana has done, and I don't really understand why. I don't see how. I truly don't. And you see all these preseason or way too early top 25s and power rankings from ESPN and John Rothstein and things like that. And I love John Rothstein. I'm not talking smack, but nobody has Indiana in the top 25, and I can't find out why. I can't figure it out. It doesn't make any sense to me. We're talking about a team, yes, that's completely rebuilding, but has a brand new head coach who's really, really good and a ton of talent, just a ton of talent. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's the issue here is people are concerned about Indiana. They just don't, they're confused. They don't really know what Indiana's got. They don't know what's happening over here in Bloomington. And until they see it, they're not going to worry about it. Till they see it, till they get proof, they're not going to buy into it. Well, that's your choice. I think it's ignorant, but you can choose to do that if you would like from those on the outside. I think it's really hard to look at this portal class that you've brought in with Trent Sisley, your high school recruit. It's hard for me, for anybody, to look at this roster and say it's not a top 25 roster in college basketball. I don't see how that's possible. But that's where we are. Maybe that'll change as the summer goes on and as we get closer to the season. I think Indiana's being slighted. I really, really do. Other teams we need to worry about from the Big Ten. How about Washington, ranked 12th in terms of transfer portal rankings, right? They've picked up some really, really good guys, including Bryson Tucker, who left Indiana to go and play at Washington. So keep that in mind. Maryland's up there at 13. UCLA's at 14. Okay. You're looking at some other Big Ten teams in there just to give you an idea of what is going on. Big time teams have brought in big time talent. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. Doesn't mean it's going to be good. We saw Indiana a year ago, but the Big Ten's making noise. And I think the Big Ten's going to be really, really good again this year. Will it be SEC good like that conference was this past year? Don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But Indiana being good is going to help. I think Purdue's always going to be solid. Michigan's going to be solid. Illinois is going to be good. I think Iowa's going to be good. I mean, this conference is going to be legit, and you've seen it because teams are stacking up in the transfer portal, and all it takes is a couple of hits in there, man. We talk about all the time the difference in getting a good kid, getting a good player in basketball versus getting a good player in football, which we're going to talk about in recruiting in just a second. But you get one or two superstars in basketball, they can carry you to the tournament. Just look at Mike Woodson's first year, right? You get one or two good players in football, that's great, but you need a lot more of them because there's a lot more players at a lot more positions. And so who's going to pan out at Indiana? Don't know. Who's going to pan out in the Big Ten? Don't know. Who's going to pan out in the transfer portal as a whole? We don't know, but it's exciting to look at it. I think the Hoosiers, again, I think we're being underrated. I think we're being overlooked. And I think our portal class should be ranked higher. I think we should be getting more love in terms of top 25s. But all of that is just off-season talk. You got to get in the gym. You got to work some things out. You got to see what this team is made of if you're Darian DeVries. And I guarantee he thinks the exact same thing. All right, coming up here on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we're going to flip over to football as Curt Cignetti and the boys, they do it again. That 2026 class, man, it's really starting to get some buzz, and it's starting to heat up. We're going to talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting super easy on any sport, NBA, NHL, MLB, you name it. They got it. You can bet on golf there. I'm a golf fan, so if you want to jump in on that, that's a lot of fun. Makes the tournaments a whole lot more exciting. You can do that. You can combine live same game parlays after the games begin. So if you're watching an NBA playoff game and it's already tipped off and it's in the second quarter, who cares? You can literally take live prop bets and put them into the same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's at FanDuel.com. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again so much for being here. Really appreciate you. Voice is trying to go out on me, so we're trying to hold on to that and try to get out of this hotel room before they start knocking on the door for housekeeping. But appreciate you being here. We are going to talk a little football because Curt Cignetti and the guys continue to get high school recruits, man. They continue to stack talent over and over and over again. Talk about a domino effect. This thing went from 1 to 2 to 6. Just like that, it seems like it was overnight. And that's what we are talking about right now is Curt Cignetti and Indiana football get another one. They get another commit from Lawrence Timmons, the 3-star safety from Pennsylvania, 5'11", 175 pounds. Again, the 3-star safety. He's rated 89 overall, so he's right there in trying to get that 4th star. I think he will get it. I think Casimir Hicks will get it. I think Henry Olinger could get it, talking about gaining their 4th star in terms of recruiting, in terms of their rating and things like that. But Lawrence Timmons is the Pennsylvania safety from Pine Richland. He's coming in again, 5'11", 175 pounds. He's rated as the number 32 corner back in the country, according to the rankings. Had 42 tackles, 3 of them for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, and a sack last year. He's going to be coming in as a freshman in this 2026 class. Had a couple of pick sixes last year as well there in Pennsylvania. So he is a really, really good player. Slightly undersized, 5'11", 175. Would like to see him be a hair top, but that's fine. Would like to see him put on some more weight. I think him and Casimir Hicks, who I know we mentioned, right, from Decatur Central, from Indianapolis, but those are 2 dudes who can be the future of your defensive backfield. You bring in Hicks as the corner of 5'11", 170, and Timmons as a corner / safety at 5'11", 175. Both of them are very highly rated 3-stars. You're talking about the future of your defensive backfield. You're talking about the future of your defense as a whole, and you're bringing them in right now. And don't get hung up on 3-star. I beg you to not get hung up on that because they're better than that, I think. And I think they're really, really good. They're highly rated. They're guys that other teams wanted. Listen to this list that Lawrence Timmons picked Indiana over, okay? He had offers from Maryland and Iowa State and Wisconsin and Iowa and West Virginia and Syracuse. Like big-time programs, Power 4 programs wanted Lawrence Timmons to play football for them, and he took a visit, and he didn't leave without a commitment. Heard that before, right? Took an official way back when, he was for junior day, then came back for an official visit, and he committed right there on the spot. That's what Indiana does. Whether it's football, basketball, swimming and diving, it doesn't matter. You come to a visit to Indiana, you're not going to leave without a commit. And I love this trend that we're on. And so big time pickup for Indiana football. You look right now at what their rankings are in terms of a team. You've got Lawrence Timmons, Casimir Hicks. Those are your 2 big ones right now. Jacob Savage is the linebacker from Kentucky. Sam Simpson is the offensive lineman from Wisconsin. Henry Olinger is the linebacker from Ohio. And then Rodney White is the D lineman from Maryland. And so you literally went from 1 to 2 to 6. It seemed like overnight. 247's got you ranked 36th overall in the country in the 2026 class. And there's a long way to go. There's no doubt about it. But this class has quickly jumped from the 60s to the 30s in terms of rankings. And they're not done. They're nowhere near done. And people want to come and play for Curt Cignetti and this football team. And something I'll point out as we wrap up here. Here's the number of states that are represented. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 of your players right now in your high school recruiting class of 2026 are from a different state. And that's a good thing. That's awesome. You are building relationships, building pipelines to all these different schools, all these different areas, all these different states. And it's going to pay off for you down the road, whether it's with these guys in particular or with other players down the road. It's going to pay off for you. So Indiana gets another big time commit. I like this kid a lot. Excited to see what his future with Casimir Hicks looks like back there. There'll be a couple of years before they see significant time, I would think, but really excited about what they bring. You get a kid from Pennsylvania, who could have gone to, again, other big time schools and took a visit to Indiana, and he chose the Hoosiers. The 6th commit in the 2026 class is the 3-star corner/safety from Pennsylvania, is Lawrence Timmons. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here and putting up with all the things we got going on, but we are back home tomorrow, okay? And we are back tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And so, again, be sure to like this video on YouTube, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments, and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on audio, follow us, turn on those notifications as well so you never miss a new episode, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.